Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we appreciate you hopping on here on this Tuesday before your holidays. Now, today we have a pretty active weather setup once again. So what we're watching for here are storms across the southeast. I like this headline here, stormy day before the turkey feast, and I'm going to add to it, in the southeast. So we're like Dr. Seuss rhyming here, but in all seriousness, I do want you to take that tornado risk serious today. It's a level 2 risk. We'll talk about exactly who is in that tornado risk today. After that, thankfully, storms do take a holiday, so you can enjoy your holiday without that severe weather. Your Thanksgiving forecast looks like you will probably need your sweater for Thanksgiving as temperatures start to cool down a little bit, and even colder after Thanksgiving as we have another low pressure system moving in, and that's going to help to bring us those strong storms once again this weekend and into early next week, and then cold air behind it, so that's a pretty dynamic setup that we'll have to keep an eye on. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. I think this is a tornado watch here. Let me go ahead and get some information on this right here. Tornado watch, yes. This highlighted here in this pink red color is a tornado watch for southern Alabama and extreme southeast Mississippi. It goes in effect now until 6 o'clock this evening. It actually went in effect about 2 minutes ago, so you're hearing about this first here on HailTrace. The National Weather or Storm Prediction Center, rather, is warning that a couple of tornadoes are possible. Isolated damaging wind gusts to 60 miles an hour are also possible, and isolated large hail up to about 1 inch in diameter. Now, HailTrace does have up to ping pong ball size hail, especially for portions of this southern watch here are also possible today. The Storm Prediction Center goes on to warn of some of these hazards highlighted here in red, but we'll talk more about those here in just a few minutes. So again, this goes in effect right now all the way until this evening. We've got a few storms that are still sitting in the far southeastern portion of Louisiana this morning. We've got more storms that stretch into Mississippi and Alabama. You can see that we do have a potential hail risk on the board for today. I think mainly down in the southern portion of this risk as those storms continue to track to the southeast not only this afternoon, but also through the late evening hours. So our entire afternoon will be filled with this line of storms here. All of this thanks to a cold front that's stretching down from a low pressure system that's moving through the southeast today, bringing some cooler temperatures behind it. So you're a little bit cooler today in places like Houston and Dallas than you were yesterday. Another cold front behind that one that's also bringing cooler temperatures to the plains today as well. Now we've got some rain up to the northeast. It's just cold rain, nothing too concerning here. There's your tornado watch highlighted there in yellow. That goes in effect from now all the way through this evening. And you want snow where you may have to travel for it, all the way up in the Dakotas. That's where we have snow for today. But I will tease to our Thanksgiving forecast. We have another chance for snow not only later on this week, but also early next week. Look, not everyone getting snow here, but a few of us will, and we'll talk about where exactly. Let's go ahead and take a look at your temperatures, 50s and 60s through a good portion of the U.S. Moving down to what we saw yesterday. Our 24-hour storm reports here show not only hail, but also high wind and tornadoes over the last 24 hours. Let's actually go to what we saw early yesterday morning, to ping pong ball size hail just north of DFW. Storms continued to track down into the southeastern portion of Texas, and that's where we bring you to Houston, where we had not one but 2 supercells produce tornado warnings, okay? They were cause for tornado warnings. Now, we do think that this one could have produced a tornado, but nothing is confirmed at this point. If so, it was only on the ground for a very brief little bit. What we were really watching for was that storm later on in the day. We're talking about 12:31 to about 2 o'clock here. We saw this, ooh, look, you can see even that hook right here on this blended reflectivity. Now we saw this go across I-10, moving all the way across the northwestern portion of the Houston metro, all the way up across I-45. We had confirmed a tornado on the ground for at least a portion of this track, at least one. Likely 2 tornadoes here, likely at least 2 tornadoes here. As this storm crossed I-45, it started to dissipate, and we were not too concerned with it any longer. So what you just saw there was a pretty short-lived tornado for the most part, okay? The supercell dropped a tornado, and then it picked right back up, and it continued to track up to the north and east. That is probably what we're going to see today as well, where most of these are pretty short-lived and it's pretty isolated as well. You know, we didn't get another warning until later on in the night. About 8 hours later, we had our next warning over Nacogdoches here, just on the eastern side of Texas and into Louisiana. We saw another tornado warning and even a potential tornado here as well early this morning in Jackson, Mississippi. And then it became an all-out wind event. We've seen lots of trees down in Birmingham with these strong winds that went across the entire city early this morning, potentially waking a lot of people up out there right around 4 o'clock this morning in Birmingham. This long line of storms all the way down to the south back into just east of Jackson, Mississippi was also warned for a tornado. Finally, as this storm moved into the morning hours, quieted down a little bit. Still a few wind reports over Atlanta, but nothing too significant. Now, this area is another area. This area will be the same area that is hit once again today by another round of storms. So let's go ahead and zoom back into Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia here. Our deep south states could have another round of not only large hail, high wind, but also tornadoes. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at your significant hail model first. So let's pop back on the yellow, and then we're also going to pop on our radar here. So you've got some of those deeper yellow colors, but I'm not seeing a ton of orange here, which I think is why the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center, they said up to quarter-size hail. Now, I went a little bit larger today. I will tell you, we've got differing forecasts, but I think that's because some of these more isolated systems, especially farther down to the south, closer to I-10, those are going to have the potential for larger hail today. We'll have to see exactly how that plays out. Another risk for tornadoes with these storms as well, and we've also got a high wind risk, which we saw all of that yesterday, so I think we could see it again today as well. Here's a look at your risk for today coming from the Storm Prediction Center here. You can see that area highlighted there in yellow. It's a level 2 on a scale of 5. Montgomery, Alabama included in this risk. We start to take a break tomorrow, and we'll have another chance for potential storms next weekend. But let's really focus on today first. I showed you that area for most likely largest hail, but I'm keeping it a very low chance for large hail today. Very low chance for large hail. I think this will be more of a tornado risk today. We do have a level 2 tornado risk, but a level 1 hail risk. I went ahead and went up to ping pong ball size hail for my max hail size. So if we get our largest hailstone today, ping pong ball size hail. Not expecting it to be too big here. We do have that tornado watch on the board, really in that area that they've already highlighted in yellow. This is your tornado forecast. So we've got that moderate, that level 2 risk highlighted in yellow, just south of Birmingham, north of Montgomery, Alabama, and then all the way back to the far eastern portions of Mississippi. Now we are talking about a lot of cities today, a lot of states as well. So comment where you're watching from. We would like to know where you're watching from today. Are you watching from these areas that could see potential tornadoes and high wind today? Are you watching for areas that you're hoping for snow? Where are you guys watching from today? Texas Aggie is jumping on here, watching from Texarkana. Yeah, you guys got some storms yesterday, right? Or maybe just a little bit of rain. I don't think there was anything severe in Texarkana. But we are not seeing any storms today in Texarkana. Good news there. You've got a cold front coming your way right now, so it should get a little bit cooler later on tonight. Now your high wind risk, also a low risk today, but I do think that we could see up to 60, maybe 65 mile per hour wind speeds. So there's your risk for today. Let's talk timeline here. Let's zoom all the way down into Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia for your timeline. What we're watching for are storms starting now, however, continuing all the way into the late afternoon and evening hours. So there's those storms that are popping up at the moment. It's going to be behind that line of storms from the rain this morning. We've got Anthony on here watching from Norman, Oklahoma. Norman, that front either just moved through Norman or it's about to move through Norman here in a few minutes. It's very close to you guys, that front over Oklahoma. But then we've got a front ahead of that Oklahoma front, and that is moving across the southeast. So that's what's helping to initiate all of these storms. Again, this afternoon, we've got a line of storms forming right now, right around Highway 59. This will continue to track to the east. Now, I'll differentiate a few things here. First of all, this line of storms, if it congeals into a line, it'll be more of a wind risk. However, if you can see a few of these isolated storms that are ahead of this line, that'll be your tornado and your hail risk. These will be your discrete supercells, your more isolated supercells. That means that this storm has more room and more time to grow that is away from this line of storms. But as we go later into the night, we've got lots more storms here, and that's going to be a lot more difficult for that tornado and that hail risk. So we go more into a wind risk as these storms get into places like Atlanta and the eastern side of Alabama. Moving on here, let's go to tomorrow. After these storms move through in the morning hours, we are severe clear tomorrow. Our attention at that point turns to more of a winter weather potential. Well, we've got snow moving through the Dakotas right now. We've got snow moving through Minnesota later on tonight. That finally reaches Wisconsin and Michigan by early tomorrow morning. Yes, we've got a lot of winter weather coming for these places that do have those winter watches, alerts, and warnings in effect for today and tomorrow. But I've seen a lot of models say places like Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, are you guys getting snow? Well, let's go ahead and see it as we go into your Thanksgiving. Who's getting wet weather? We've got some wet weather off the coast. We've got some on the East Coast as well. But for the most part, I'm not too worried about that wet weather on Thanksgiving. Not too worried here. Hey, you've got some light rain moving into Kansas. That's not a whole snowstorm. No, it's too warm for that right now. However, we've got a cold front coming through after Thanksgiving, and that's going to help to see more of those colder conditions, winter-like conditions moving into some of your central portions of the U.S. So we're talking about Kansas, Nebraska, at that point with potential snow. So let's go ahead, let's play this through. Here's Tuesday. Wednesday, we've got snow up in Montana and Wyoming. Light rain, I'm not talking about freezing rain, I'm talking about light rain here into places like Kansas and Kansas City. I'm not too worried about those winter conditions on Wednesday, but as we get into Thursday and Friday, you're going to see those temperatures change. Temperatures are going to drop as we head into the later portion of this week and early next week. Here we are on Saturday, 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. I know you look at this and you say everyone's getting snow. Is that true? No. There's still a lot of unknowns about this map right here. If this colder air moves farther down into the south, we could get a little bit of snow, maybe a little bit of ice into Oklahoma. However, I say that with a big, big, big if this happens. We are still so far out from this, we're still so far out from Saturday, from where this model shows you right now. There are so many things that could change between now and then. More likely what we'll see is we'll see that better chance for snow farther up to the north. So we're talking about places like Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois. That's a better chance to get snow. Farther down to the south, I just think it's still a little bit too warm. We could also see strong to severe storms farther down to the south into places like Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, Mississippi. I would keep an eye on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday for potential strong to severe storms as well. However, I'll say it again, we're still several days out from this. So a lot could change between now and then. But let's play the what if game. Let's see what our snow accumulations are. By Saturday, Sunday, we could see some snow in the plains. Again, I'm just not betting. If you're a betting person, don't bet on this forecast to verify. I think the better chance here is some snow in the mountainous regions and in the northern states, okay? So we said that yesterday. We're going to continue with that today. But for that Thanksgiving forecast, I'm going to go ahead and bring in meteorologist Michaela Smith. Michaela, you showed us our Thanksgiving forecast yesterday. Have we seen any big changes for today?
Talking about snow and stuff like that, what you were just showing, no. You know, people who kind of a week ago, we talked about people were hyping up this massive blizzard on Thanksgiving. No, you know, it's 2 days away from now. We're not really seeing that for a lot of people across the U.S.
Not a white Thanksgiving. So for me to drive to Grandma's house here in the plains, I'm going to be okay?
I think you'll be good.
Okay. I'm excited for this cooler weather, though. Temperatures have dropped. I know that you're excited as well.
Oh, yeah. I just mentioned to Taylor when I walked outside. I was like, it feels colder now. I have my sweater on. It's sweater weather. I've been putting that on all the forecast stuff. I'm like, sweater weather just in time for Thanksgiving. That is something I can get behind. Because when it was a little bit warmer last week, it was not looking forward to, you know, warmer temperatures for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, okay, break down that Thanksgiving forecast. I know a lot of people are making their plans to head out over the next few days. airplane travel.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us what that looks like.
Yeah, so things are gonna, we're not talking about any major snowstorms. You can see the snow accumulation. This goes all the way through Monday. So at this point, we're not saying, oh my gosh, we're gonna see a crazy amount of snow areas all the way this far to the south too, like Taylor was saying, the plains. There's a chance. We're not locking that in right now. Areas that will probably see a white Thanksgiving is gonna be parts of maybe Minneapolis, some Minnesota, northern Michigan, parts of Wisconsin maybe. That snow's falling today and tomorrow, but temperatures aren't going to get back above freezing, so you could still see some of that snow on the ground. Air travel delays today you can see really in the northern plains. That's going to be because of wind. So areas like Rapid City, Omaha, if you are traveling today for Thanksgiving, trying to get somewhere early before Thanksgiving on Thursday, it's going to be more of a wind threat. We're not talking about crazy snow for most of this area. There is some snow further to the north like Fargo, Minneapolis. You start to see some of that snowfall this afternoon. But areas like all the way to the south in Omaha, that's where we have high wind warnings or wind advisories. So some pretty breezy conditions the rest of today heading into tomorrow. Here's a look at 8:30 in the morning. Maybe a few delays in Minneapolis and Chicago. Some snow likely at that point in parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin. There's a look at your Wednesday evening. Then as you head towards Thanksgiving morning, 8 a.m., not seeing any moderate or even major concerns. If there's any travel delays, they are going to be very minor. And then you can see same thing, Thanksgiving evening around 6 o'clock. If you have to leave maybe right after you eat dinner, still not overly expecting any major concerns across the area. By Friday and Saturday, there's that next round of storms that Taylor was mentioning. So you can start to see, especially getting into Friday night, could start to cause some delays in some locations. So if you're heading back home at that point, we could be dealing with stormy conditions Friday into Saturday. So just be prepared that change in the weather pattern could be coming this weekend, even though things are nice and calm on Thanksgiving Day. And then here's a look more towards Saturday night. That's another pretty busy travel day. You can see Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Chicago might be dealing with some travel delays at that point. Again, that's when we're talking about more storms, areas to the south, possible snow, areas to the north. It all just depends on, it's a very dynamic storm system that we're talking about, how cold that air gets and how quickly, and then where that rain actually is developing. Yesterday, we showed you Oklahoma City's Thanksgiving forecast. Let's look at New York City today. You can see 43 degrees at noon on Thanksgiving, 44 by 3 o'clock, 42 by 6, and then by 9 o'clock in the evening, you're sitting in the 30s. So things are going to stay pretty chilly up in New York. That's why we've been saying sweater weather. Have the layers ready for Thanksgiving. Partly cloudy skies, and those winds will be out of the east at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. So look at these future temperatures. This evening, if you have any travel plans done on your Tuesday, you can start to see really where that colder air moves into place. By tomorrow morning, temperatures are in the 30s and 20s in a lot of locations. Tomorrow evening, you're back into the 20s and 30s. Still a little bit warmer to the south, 40s and 50s and 60s. On Thanksgiving morning, here's 6 a.m., you were in the 20s in Chicago, 22 in Minneapolis, 18 in Bismarck. That's pretty chilly conditions. 30s in Oklahoma City, 40s in Dallas. So cold start to your turkey day. In the afternoon, you may not be sitting on a patio this year, Thanksgiving, if you're kind of central U.S. and to the north. If your areas to the south, highs in the 50s and 60s, is still relatively cool for this time of year for Thanksgiving. But you can see this is 6 o'clock on your Thursday. Some places, again, only in the 20s and 30s Thanksgiving afternoon. And also areas to the north could be a little bit windy just because we're seeing that lower pressure system off closer to the Great Lakes. So you could have some windy conditions on Thanksgiving afternoon. I'll bring Taylor back on now to kind of wrap up more about this forecast heading into the weekend. Like we talked about, things are going to change a little bit more. We have colder air that's moving in after Thanksgiving, heading into the first full week of December. And that's going to give us the possibility more next week of talking about maybe snow in some locations that typically wouldn't talk about it in December. But again, it's so early now. Like, we're not telling you, lock it in, you're going to see snowfall. It's just a heads up, hey, we're seeing some things, but it's not for sure.
No, not at all. Well, and I want everyone to also remember, if we do see snow in some of these areas, the likelihood that it sticks is low.
Very low.
The likelihood that it's more than an inch or two, very, very low. I mean, the likelihood that we see a few flurries, it's possible. We'll
Makes for great social media posts.
Yeah, it's cute, but you can still get on the roads. And I'm really just not too worried about Oklahoma and Kansas and Nebraska to get those really, really heavy snows quite yet. But we do have changes in the forecast, so I guess we should get in that. I like to think about this with, there's two different storm systems going on. We've got that one right now a break for the holidays, and then we've got that one after the holidays.
We've been making jokes. The weather doesn't take a full holiday. It's taking a short holiday,
Very short one.
just in time for Thanksgiving. You know, it's kind of being nice, but the weather doesn't take like the full holiday vacation like a lot of people. It doesn't take the 4-day weekend. It takes like the one day.
Just the one day. Well, and you know what? As meteorologists, we're grateful for that one day.
Very grateful.
I will take what I can get. Thank you, Michaela. We appreciate it. But we were talking about the changes, so let's go ahead and see whenever the weather wakes back up, what are we looking at here? Well, that'll most likely be either Friday or Saturday. What we're looking at is this big cold air blast. So you can see actually that we're starting to get a temperature gradient or a change in the temperatures. Colder air back to the west, warmer air down to the southeast. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that Gulf moisture and it's going to create the potential for storms in this area. That cold blast farther up to the north in the plains, and that's your big weather change right there. So what we're talking about is either Friday or Saturday. I would say probably Saturday. This will continue to track to the south with that chance for severe weather farther down into our southern states like Texas, Louisiana, maybe into Mississippi and Alabama, but again, it's just too soon to exactly tell where this is going to set up and the hazards that are going to come with it. But what we do know is we're going to see a big cool down. What we do know here is that we're going to see temperatures drop drastically over the next few days, warm up just a little bit, and then drop once again as that blast of cold air comes in this weekend. Cooler temperatures as we head into the end of the weekend, truly feeling more like fall or maybe even winter for some of us. How long will this stick around? Well, I think as we head into the very beginning of December, the first week of December, which is actually this time next week. I know, can you believe it? We are nearing the end of Thanksgiving for a lot, the end of November, not just the end of Thanksgiving. We are nearing the end of November, so the very beginning of December, this time next week, it looks like temperatures will be below average. It also looks like we are staying on this wet weather trend, which this time of year could mean snow or it could mean rain. We're going to continue to see that as we head into December. Now, before we wrap up here, I did forget a very, very important part about this forecast. I think that I forgot. We haven't shown our tornado pictures from yesterday, did we? I just completely forgot about this. So let's go back to our 24-hour storm reports here. We did talk about that Houston tornado. Michaela and I were watching it yesterday. We had two different supercells here, one that went through Waller or Austin County, and then another one later on in the day, about 1 to 2 o'clock here, that went through the northwestern side of the Houston metro. I want you to go ahead and take a look at these pictures and videos that we got from this storm yesterday. Actually, some really, really impressive photos and videos came out from this yesterday. One of them from the Constable Office Precinct 4, which is one of the biggest police departments in this area. They did tons of surveys yesterday. This was their video from what looks like a dash cam. You can see a very, very significant lowering, that bowl-like shape coming in from the road, which is kind of a scary situation to be on the road during all of this. They went and surveyed the areas. This is coming from Memorial Northwest neighborhoods where tons of massive trees were toppled over here. Unfortunately, some of those trees falling on top of houses and high winds, ripping off portions of roofs in this area as well. Just tons of trees in the roadways also made these roads semi-impassable, so it took a while to get these all removed. And the constable office there was also talking about how they were working very hard to make sure that no one was trapped or stranded drivers weren't trapped for too long in these areas because those roads were so impassable. But it looks like it was a whole community effort yesterday. They even used drones to make sure that they were surveying this damage and tracking the areas that were impacted the most here. And you can see that's from their drone shot right there. Very, very impressive. And we're also very grateful to everyone who stepped out the door yesterday, helped their neighbors clean up. It does look like this may be a long cleanup process, but the National Weather Service of Houston said that they are headed out today to do more surveys. However, HailTrace already has that map up on our website. We'll be continuing to quality control that just to make it more and more accurate throughout the day as well. So head over to HailTrace.com if you'd like to see the map of those several tornadoes yesterday. We know of at least one tornado, but there was likely at least 2 tornadoes, if not 3, from this area yesterday. And again, that map is at HailTrace.com. So go over there to get more information about hail, wind, or tornado maps. Give us a call if you don't have a subscription yet at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website, HailTrace.com, for more info. And as always, follow us on all forms of social media. We were some of the first to post about that Houston tornado yesterday. Scoured the internet for not only traffic cam photos of the lowering of this tornado, that rotation in the sky, but also the impacts afterwards. So those trees were down on the ground, the police were out surveying the damage, and we had those photos on our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok pages. So make sure that you follow us on those websites as well. All right, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. Well, see you back here for your forecast, same time.